All right, just imagine there is some introduction music happening right now. Get ready. We are about to be live.
Hey,
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday afternoon. Just wanted to say thanks to everyone who's made a moment in their day to join us here on our second edition of CMS Demo Days. We're going to jump right into things here because we don't have much time and it seems to go by quickly. We have a super amazing guest with us today who's going to be demonstrating Agility CMS. Joel Vardy is the CTO, longtime friend, partner. I'm Bryce from Dotfusion. We're a partner with Agility and been building beautiful websites with them for a long, long time, but over 15 years. But Agility is a Canadian CMS. Joel's been nurturing and building that product for years, and it is a world-class solution for folks who are managing web content. And maybe Joel, if you can take a few minutes, introduce yourself and say hello to folks who are showing up here and who will see this in the future.
yeah, thanks, Chris. It's great to be on the show with you, and yeah, I've been with Agility for in excess of 20 years, which is crazy. Which is we were just talking before this, like Chris, you and I have been friends longer than there have been emojis. Emojis were added in 2010 to Unicode.
We put in our notes to each other, smiley faces.
How we talk has changed so much, but a lot of the things have stayed the same, and that's what's really cool about why I stay in tech, why I've stayed with Agility is the customers that we work with, the partners that we work with, and the relationships and the connections that you build. Those are something that like you can really build your career on that, and that's what I've done. And yeah, there's technology there too, which is always fun to show and to talk about. And I love how technology has changed a ton, but the premises of what we built Agility on were ideas that John Voight and I came up with back in like 2005, 2006, and we've just continued to build on top of those. I just love sharing it with folks and teaching them, how they can use CMS to solve their needs with web content and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun.
Super cool. So we're live on LinkedIn right now. We share the artifacts of this video on all of the usual social channels afterwards. The format, if you're listening in, is ask us anything. It's really a moment in time where we've got the CTO of Agility to move around in demonstration mode. And I'm going to turn this over to Joel in a moment. But just wanted to say thanks again for everyone for joining in. Joel, thanks for being here. I did want to know that there's a few differentiating aspects of Agility CMS that are a little bit different. And from our perspective as an agency that's worked with you for so long, it's really this dedication to customer and partner service. Like we've had ideas, that have been just kind of in the air and they're now part of Agility. And I think that's really great. Also wanted to highlight that I believe you are the highest ranked on G2, which is cool. So folks that are in the consideration set where you're looking for a CMS, you can actually reach out to Joel. And that's part of the beauty of Agility and the organization that you have running over there. I'm going to click some buttons here and let's get into demo mode. And I'm just going to hand this over to you. And I may jump in once in a while with questions from folks on LinkedIn or some questions that I have as well. But really, this is over to you. Here you go. Let me just see how I get this going up here. One click away. Okay.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Chris.
You got it.
Yeah. So this is the main Agility interface that marketers would use to edit their content. And I think one of the biggest differences between some headless CMSs and Agility, so Agility is a headless CMS, meaning that you access your content using an API.
Could you describe headless? I'd love to get your words on it.
So for me, yeah, headless means that the service that you get when you purchase a headless CMS is essentially a content API. That's what you get. You don't get a website. What that means is that your website and your CMS are not tied together closely, which means mostly that if you want a new design, you don't need to get a whole new CMS. So for instance, one of our customers, longtime customers, Cineplex. We started working with them back in 2007. I think the movie that we wanted to get the first version of their website out for was Spider-Man 3. So I think that was like 2007, 2008. But we developed some content models for them. So like designed their sitemap and the components that they need for their pages, integrated with their movie database and all that sort of stuff. That model has not changed in, well, how many years is that? It's like, we're talking decades now. And we just continue to iterate on that stuff. They've gone from .NET, I think it was .NET 3 back in the day. It's gone through all the versions of .NET. Now it's on Next.js. It's the same content backend. So that means that you can do new versions of your website, but you don't have to update all your content. And the reason this has taken off so much, I think, because headless is I think the fastest growing, sort of one of the fastest growing industries, is because people have realized the value of the content is way more valuable than the front end website. Front end websites are almost, I'm not going to say disposable, but there's something that you want to iterate on as your brand changes. You do not want to go and have to redo all of your blog posts and all of your content that you've spent all this time doing. So marketing teams really love headless once they understand the concept and the value that they're getting. So it's been a really good shift for us in the messaging, because we've been headless forever, like since
since the .NET days.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about like that headless terminology is a kind of a new-ish thing, and like no marketer knows what an API is, and they shouldn't have to. But the technology should work together in a seamless way so that I can really, really easily work on all the different pieces of content that I have, and that shows up on my website, and I don't have to worry about it.
So yeah, testament to that concept is I think we're on the 3rd generation of Dotfusion's website. It's 3 generations of looking different, but not 3 generations of content different. We just, our content is similar. Our case studies about us, we change that up, but it's really, we represent it often, and that's lightweight on our end. We have some front end work to do there, but it allows you to hold on to your content for as long as you like and keep changing how things present or look. All right, take it away, man. I'm really excited to see what's happening here.
Cool. So, this is the main Agility interface, as I said, that marketers work with, but a content architect or developer who's setting things up would actually go in and probably set up what's called models first. And we talk about a content model, and it's a really good question. What is a content model? It's kind of like, when you have an Excel spreadsheet and there's columns in the spreadsheet and each one of those columns has a name, you can think of it like that. If I were to have like a list of all the items, each one of the fields in a model is kind of like the columns of a spreadsheet. So if I have something like, let's like a blog post, okay? Each one of that blog post is going to have a heading, right? It's going to have a slug. And if you're used to like a WordPress, this is similar to what like a post is in WordPress, right? But in WordPress, you only have posts and you can customize how those are. But in Agility, you can create whatever content models you want. And we don't ship them by default. This is an example demo site that we have that has all kinds of different content models. But we work with our customers to say, what is the content that's important to your organization? What do you already have? Maybe it's in databases or Excel spreadsheets or in another CMS. How do you want to consolidate that? This is also called structured content. So when you're basically deciding how to break up something that might be a Word doc into fields. And that is nice because now I can actually use this on different places in my website. So a blog post can show up like in a blog post listing, but I can also feature a blog post somewhere, maybe on my homepage. It can show up anywhere. And this is the kind of setup that lasts a long time. You can add on to it, but you probably won't change it that much. So this content model for posts is used in the post listing. Now, so as I click here, it's going to change me from the models section of Agility into the content section of Agility. So now I'm actually, as a marketer, so, when in the model section, I probably set up as like a content strategist or an architect or a developer. But now as a marketer, I can come in and actually work with this list of actual blog posts. And I used AI to create these, so sorry. But it just saves a lot of time. But now this is the experience that really matters to us the most. We want to give a great experience to developers, but long-term, who's going to be using this content for the longest amount of time? It's the marketing and content teams. So we want a really good experience for them. So the idea is this is how you create a blog post, and it's pretty easy. You just fill in out a bunch of fields. It's as easy as like writing an email kind of thing. And I can save it from here. And then before I go live with it, I can preview it.
Cool.
And I think that's a really important concept right there, just to be able to see what is going to happen on your on a thing like a blog post or a page before it goes live. And that will take me over to what's called Web Studio. And that's where we kind of bring together the output, the head of the website, the front end. We actually bring that into this interface here. So if I click through, this is actually going to now show me this blog post, show me a preview of it, and I can preview it. And I'm like, hey, what will it look like on my phone? What will it look like? I can zoom in. So if I had like a bigger screen, what would it look like there? So let's get down to 50%, that kind of thing. I can resize it. So really, really useful. But we also took a lot of cues. I don't know if you've ever used Figma. Figma is probably one of the most revolutionary design tools that's come out, but it's also now one of the most collaborative tools that people work on together. And we took some cues from Figma for our commenting system. So now on here, I have this visual commenting workspace that I can use. So it's like, yeah, we're a headless CMS, but it's a very collaborative space for marketers to work. And so, maybe I'm not too sure about the fact that this image is black and white. So I know Chris, this isn't you, Chris. This is our Chris from our sales team. He's our account executive, and he works with me on this demo site. Maybe the black and white isn't so good here. And let's fix the typo. So he's going to actually get a notification now about that, and he's going to be brought right to this visual workspace. So even though in a headless system, that front end is going to change, the front end is the most important thing. That's what marketers really care about. What does this thing actually look like? So that's what Web Studio is all about. And we wanted to make it a very collaborative experience to be able to see, what's going on with your content before it goes live. So I can switch back to the preview view over here and get rid of any of that other stuff so I can actually work with this system. So it's a really nice way to just like plug in the content, do the work that I need to do, and see what it's going to look like on the site. And then I can go ahead and publish that when I'm ready to rock. And then it'll go live on the site. And what happens is it tends to be with headless sites, as you know, Chris, from building so many of them, they tend to be really fast. And they tend to be like, usually they'll have really good designs because it's a lot easier to iterate on a design that you built with a headless system, as opposed to something with like a traditional CMS where you got to like follow like old school code templating things and, all kinds of other rules. So this is a really nice way to kind of work with content. And it's really worked out well for many of our customers. And what's been really cool is like we brought Web Studio in, I think about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, but every single customer that we've had since 2000 and whatever has been able to just use that. It just worked for them. Right. So we're able to add new features pretty easily. And then it just, it just works, which is great. And I think it's important for things to just work with technology. No one cares about the technology. They care about the functionality and the benefit, right?
Very cool.
Yeah. So one of the bigger differentiators is this Web Studio interface. But I would say another big sort of change that a lot of folks aren't expecting when we talk to them about a headless system is the fact that Agility actually has pages as data objects that are available here. Okay. So many headless systems don't have a sitemap, and they don't have the idea of a component. So if I go into like the homepage here, you can see we've got 4 different components that are on there. And if you're technical at all, if you're a developer, especially if you're like a React developer, the idea of a component is very common. But even if you've been using Figma, people use Figma to design components, right? Mm-hmm. And what this is essentially the content that a component needs. Okay. So if I go to like into this is called a hero component, right? So a hero component, it needs to have a heading and a description, and it's got like a call to action that's on there. There's no design that's in here, but there's a lot of design that obviously that went into that component. So let's just preview this guy, look at it in Web Studio, and we can kind of translate how this structured content fields turned into the design here. So you can see, and we even get some ability to kind of hint to change this. So like I can actually change this and see those changes live. So that's a really nice benefit of the video right there. But also now I can see as a marketer exactly how my content that I'm entering turns into a design. And we could do a whole new different design for this, in another couple, whenever that changes over, maybe we move to a new framework and this content may look different. I think that's important to understand how that works. So I can update and work with all that sort of stuff. I have the idea of changing my settings is important here too. So I've chosen the grayscale background. I could have maybe a background image that I want to do on here. So I think I'll probably have to refresh to get this change to come through. But if I wanted to have a background image as opposed to just a gradient through there, I could go ahead and do that. So you can give your editors a ton of control over the front end. And what I have found in working with folks like you, Chris, where you guys are actually building these sites and implementing them for customers, it's a matter of like, what does the customer need is really a huge thing, because they'll come to us initially with like, hey, I want this, I want that. And that's great. And translating those wants into what they actually need is something that I think Agility is the best in the industry at. That's why we're highest ranked on G2, and that's why people stay with us for so long, because we've translated what they actually needed into the solution and helped them along with that process. Because it's a journey, right? And it's going to evolve as their business evolves. But giving structured content with lots of options, but not too many options, is that right balance. And every single customer has a different setup that makes sense for them for what their content looks like. We have some customers where they actually use rich text areas everywhere because they don't want any structured content, because their marketing team is like 2 developers and that's all they have. They're very small and they don't have a React developer. They only have an HTML developer. So, okay, I don't recommend that for most customers. For most customers, this kind of structured content works a lot better, but not everybody. So everybody has their comfort level with what they want. It's been really interesting to see that like evolution over the years towards people getting more comfortable with the idea of structured components that they work with on pages, and then structured content that they work with that's in a more of a traditional headless sense that's in there. It's a really good balance that you can bring in. And folks are getting really comfortable with that, I think, these days, and they're just asking for more and more, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think you tapped into something that we spend a lot of time and care on, and is often not spoken about in depth enough when doing your requirements gathering, and that is identifying and speccing out what we call component controls. It's essentially just what you showed. So there's a brand governance that needs to take place: colors, font, spacing, kind of style. But how do you give authors the right amount of control over making variants of a component? Yeah. And that's a big part of requirements gathering. And it makes Agility such a dream to use, because we can program that in to give them that right amount of flexibility. You don't want to be so hard that you can just change the title, but just as you showed, maybe actually this is a use case. We didn't find this out until later, which helped us develop our process a bit, is that they wanted to control a gradient wipe from bottom left to upper right within the controls, and to be able to swap it out and have a color.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
This is all doable in Agility though. So it gave the right amount of flexibility, but didn't allow them, authors to go kind of out of brand constraints. So super cool. And if you don't mind, something that's been a bit confusing to our customers is the difference between a model and a component. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. So if I think of a component model, so there's 2 kinds of models in Agility. One, and they're almost exactly the same in how you build them, but how they get implemented is different. And if you've ever heard the word schema, a schema is like a really kind of old school term that basically decides what's the shape of your content, like essentially what fields are in there and what do you name everything. So in a content model, like I called it post, it could have been called blog post, it could have been called article. So getting the naming right before you start things, and that's why the process that I know you guys go through with your customers on requirements is so important, because it's easy to change names like on a Word document before you get started. It's hard to change names later, right? So how do you name things? You set up all of that in the actual model. And a content model, for us, a content model ends up showing up in the content area as implemented as like lists or single items. And component models are the definition of like the fields that can be used on a component that you add to a page. So it's a model when it's in the modeling section. It becomes an actual component when you implement that by actually adding it to a page. So let's go actually ahead and do that. So let's go to our Contact Us page and let's go click Add Component. And we've already got a Contact Us thing on there, but maybe we wanted to add like a frequently asked questions to the bottom of this. So I'll go ahead, drop that component in there. This is actually kind of revolutionary for a lot of folks the first time, because the ability as an editor, I don't know how to code components, right? That's not my job. My job is creating content. But what I just did was add a whole new component to a page that's going to be output. So let's just go ahead. Like, normally I don't do this, but you asked. And now, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now my list of questions, I can just start adding them in there. How do you do it? I don't know. So here we go. So now we just basically went through taking a component model. So we chose on the page, we chose the component model from the list of available ones, and we actually added it to a page. We could add all new pages onto here too. So all of the control is given to the marketing team.
Awesome. That was so easy too.
It's like I always say, can you write an email? Then you can use a CMS. It shouldn't be that hard. And if your current CMS is harder than that, there's a problem. And we can help with that. And that's a process to sort of getting to the area where that's all there. And in the age, I hate to say the AI word, but now with AI, things move so fast, and the expectations on marketing team is to have such a fast rhythm with content that your tooling should work within that. And you and I were just talking about earlier about, MCP servers and like AI browsers out there. Agility works great with all of that stuff. And it's so much so that like literally this whole site, I built this site, and I haven't actually built a website in a long time. I built this site and I used AI to help me build all the code, and it was in like probably 3-4 hours. It's just crazy.
Yeah, amazing, eh?
No, it wasn't to spec. I was just making it up as I went along. So it does take a lot long to build something to an actual real design. Making it up in your head is a lot easier, but AI can really make things go a lot faster for you.
Super cool. Just wanted to shout out to folks who are taking a moment of time out of their lunch hour to join us. Thank you very much. As always, you can post any questions or give us some comments. Mario gave us some good vibes. Thank you very much. Yes, Canada's original Headless CMS.
Right on.
Good shout out to the Canadian vibes out there. I just had a question related to what we were talking about, and it is one of the 3 main reasons we choose Agility, outside of easy to use, authors love it, is ability to integrate into other systems. So most of our projects are larger websites that are presenting content that doesn't just come from Agility.
Right.
It could be data from another source. For, I think, Westman Communications, we're pulling out product bundles from other systems.
Yep.
And maybe you tell us, but essentially a content model or a component can be one that allows you to control other systems within Agility, which is like, if I wanted to, let's say, control an asset management system that's decoupled from Agility, instead of going in and doing all of your configuring in the other system, we can actually build the controls right in Agility. It's amazing. But maybe just share a little bit about how Agility works with other systems.
Yeah. So first of all, being API driven, that interaction is like as much as you can imagine, you can do. I think what you nailed, Chris, is that like that's all fine. That's all in the back end. So like, maybe for like in Westman, maybe we need to build it, bring in products from another spot. Maybe, for Cineplex, we needed to bring in movies from their movie database. The key to the longevity of projects like that is how do you make that configurable so that the marketing team has visibility into what's going on there and to give them control through the tool that they're using for their content most of the time. The way we do that is called apps. And so apps can be custom fields, but they can also be actually deeper integrations. And this, I'm going to show you something you haven't seen yet, Chris. This is like one of the ways that we can do A/B testing, and a tool that we've started using. So this is a regular hero component, but what we did is we added the ability to have variants of that component on there, right, as linked content. So let's see how we might have implemented this. So we've got our A/B test hero on our features page. And so the idea is that we'll have a system that chooses which of this variants to show. And we're using a tool called PostHog, which I don't know if you've heard of. It's a fairly new analytics tool that came out. And now we've actually created that experiment in PostHog. It actually got created automatically. And let's go ahead and pin this. So we can actually see some of the information about that experiment. But when I actually view this in Web Studio, let's go, I'll just preview it. It's actually it'll just pick one version of that, okay, randomly, but it's always going to show me that same version, right? So we have this, and the idea is when people click this button now, that's like a conversion on that A/B test. So, and PostHog is going to track all that for us. And what we've done is we've brought not a ton of information, but we've brought some information in here. And actually, I can click View in PostHog to actually look at the results of this A/B test. Now, this is a demo site, so I have like literally 6 views that were all from me. So it's not a great test. But what's really great is that all of the variants that are set up in PostHog, I don't have to go in PostHog to do those variants. I can control them through here. So I've got 4 different, so this is like 5 different pieces of content that I'm testing with just this component. So this is component level A/B testing that you can do. And you could do this with personalization. So we've got examples in here where it's like, hey, choose your industries as your variants or something like that, or regions is another good one. All kinds of ways that you can create variants of your content. And yeah, that's asking a lot of your marketing team to create all that content, but AI can help with that.
Yes.
But measuring it is even more important. And measuring the how your content is performing is something that we're spending a lot of time, finding ways to make that easier for customers to do on a long-term basis. So it's like whether it's connecting, other systems, maybe it's external product system or commerce systems, it's analytics, it's saying, hey, what's the performance of my content? And then bringing in tools to help measure that and keeping as much of it in Agility where people are actually comfortable working in there is really important. And, more and more people are creating these apps. By the way, I used AI to create this PostHog app. It's in beta on our marketplace. I also hadn't created an app in a long time. So really cool that, we're able to bring some more tools like that in. And we're looking to our customers and partners to help us decide what integrations do you want us to build as a reference so that we can kind of show the way on how to do some of this stuff. And then, lots of our customers are building these themselves now because they can have private. So this is a marketplace app, but you can build private apps that are just for your instances. And so like we've got our, I know you guys have built some, Chris, with you folks. Some of our customers who have development teams are building them. These are really starting to show up in a lot of places now.
Awesome. Joel, if you don't mind going a little bit long, because there's so much. Okay, cool. Just keep going. This is great. And this is a bonk on the head for me too, because I haven't been promoting testing enough either. And what a great integration and a great example too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this actually came up. I was just in a conversation. You ever just like hallway chats or just like meet people at the water? We don't really have water coolers anymore because I don't work in an office. So I try to meet up with folks. And when John and I meet up, our CEO John, or when Gina, our president, we just chat and we talk about, what we've learned from customers and things like that. And this came up as we need a way to demo this to customers because we talk about it all the time. Yeah, you can do A/B testing. You can do it like this and we describe it, but you need to be able to show it. And what we've found out is that with AI, we can build proof of concepts really fast. I would say AI does not help you build production stuff that fast yet, but proof of concepts really, really fast. This is an example of one of those proof of concepts that we built pretty quickly. The ability to actually see results in PostHog. And if I create let's actually go a little bit deeper because this is a fun one. If I actually just go back to pages here for a second, and I'm going to add this to, maybe I wanted to have this on my pricing page. So I'll just go and add that A/B test hero onto there. Hang on. There we go. Okay. So now from the start, if I go over to here, it doesn't have an experiment key. So I can create, so now I have the ability to kind of set all this up and I can give it any key that I want. So pricing, test, whatever.
And this is kind of talking back to PostHog where it's giving you the analytics on the behaviors. Okay.
Yeah. So I have the ability to create this experiment. So I would set all this stuff up for myself. I would set up the variants. Got to fill it some more. Oh, I got to choose my picture. I don't have time to do all of this stuff. But the idea is I just set up all this content in Agility first. Then I go and create my experiment in PostHog. What I found is that we've had people doing this manually, and like having to type things in two systems really sucks.
Yeah.
And so people just won't do it. But if you have some automations in place to do that, maybe there's some steps that they have to follow, but it's like, boom, it creates the experiment, sets up all the variants for me, no matter how many there are, and sets all of the default experiments. If you've ever worked with A/B testing tools, there's a ton of options. We just pick the default options that people tend to choose. Boom, it's set up. And then now that had to be coded in the front end as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the hard part. The hard part is, what do your editors actually work with, and making the tooling easy for them to understand, and then later for them to actually see the analytics that affect them the most. Now, in the case of PostHog, it's a pretty new tool, so they don't have like embeddable reports. So we just created the link to be able to go view those reports in PostHog. I have a feature request with that team. They're actually a really responsive team as well. I'll shout them out. To say, hey, look, if we could bring in embeddable components into the CMS, that would be really rad. So they're cool with that, because they're one of the things that because people are starting to go off in Google Analytics. They still got Google Analytics on their site, but the reporting isn't as nice as it used to be, not as many features. PostHog actually has a whole web analytics offering that they have now, and it's really reasonably priced, and we're starting to recommend that to more folks. So this isn't a PostHog sales call, but it's just one of those headless tools that we found really works well for us when showing demos. And even if it's not the thing that people actually use in the long run, it's an example of how to do that. We've got a lot of folks using Adobe Target for personalization, and they've never implemented it. Paid for it for years, never used it. So first of all, we can help with that because we've actually helped folks implement it. But also, if you want a tool that's a lot cheaper and it actually works, here's some other tools that work if you want to actually get stuff done. So there's, I really feel for customers who are using tools that they don't feel that they're getting a lot of value out of. It's the thing that we care the most about at Agility long term, is like, what are your needs and how are they being met on an ongoing basis? Let's talk about that. And if there's a way we can change to help meet your needs, we'll look very closely at doing that. And we'll actually help you, recommend tools and partners that are going to help you on that journey as well.
Very cool. And just to kind of summarize what we've been looking at right now, essentially inside Agility, you create a content and component model. You build your pages by dragging and dropping. Super easy. You can pipe data in from other sources. You can preview in the design studio, hit publish. You're in a static HTML page, nothing to hack, super fast, beautiful system. I'd love to know what your roadmap is. Where are you taking Agility? What's around the corner, to the extent that you can share with us?
Yeah, currently working on a couple AI features that I can tell you some of the high-level details about. So one of them is just built-in translation. So Agility, if you can notice right here, we've got like a couple different languages that are in this site. We call them locales. So the ability to very quickly use, I'm not sure whether what translation service we're going to use in the backend, or give an option for customers to plug in their own, but to automatically translate in bulk all kinds of content, or translate on demand as you're going through. That's a big one. We've got a couple customers like Epson Global. There's like 19 locales. That's a lot to manage. And they have a whole translation team, but to give them the ability to optimize that is something we're looking to do for all of our customers. But then another one is an AI tool most people, they don't type into a CMS. They create content they're in Word, they're in Google Docs, or they're in Figma creating like these designs which have a bunch of content in them. And it's actually kind of hard to get that out of there. So what we're building is a tool. It is essentially like a drag and drop, copy paste, file-based or clipboard-based tool that takes that unstructured content and will automatically plug it into, whether it be a blog post, maybe creating a whole new page for you and picking what components fit that content the best and just creating it for you. So we're hoping that's a real time saver for marketing teams, so that they can, especially folks using AI tools to create content, because AI creates very unstructured content, right? It's long, there's a lot of stuff there, but to be able to plug that directly into Agility is something we want to make it a lot easier for folks.
Amazing. I've got to ask you your reflections on MCP servers. What is that? What does it mean to Agility?
Yeah, so what MCP stands for? What? Model Context Protocol. It basically allows tools like Agility to become a first-class citizen in the AI agents that people are used to using. So whether you're using, we just talked about Perplexity, I use GitHub Copilot a lot. People are using like Cursor, whatever AI tools you're already using. You can register this MCP server, and now you have the ability to log in to that tool. So for Agility's MCP server, you log into Agility. So it's going to operate on your behalf. And our MCP server is in beta right now. It's in a private beta. It's coming out in public beta very soon. But you can see all your instances. What do I have access to? What are the models that are in those instances? And I can create models. Those are very developer heavy focused things that we're doing first. But that is to help folks like you and your team, Chris, create websites using Agility a lot faster, because it means you can actually do a code first approach. I demoed this last week where I took a screenshot of a contact us form, dropped it into my project and said, create this, and then create the content component model in Agility. And it took like 4 or 5 minutes to create that. It was pretty nice demo. Creating a contact form can take a long time, and it's very finicky. And again, I wouldn't say it's at the same level as like that a professional developer could do, but it certainly is a great starting point. So that's where we're starting with this. With our MCP server, we're going to create more and more functionality on top of that. A lot of folks are just wrapping their entire APIs in an MCP server. You get very non-deterministic results when you do that. So for instance, if we had an MCP server that did every single function that's in Agility, that means that in your prompt, you have to be so specific about what you're going to do. You might as well just go do the action yourself anyway. So we're looking at the higher level actions that people want to do with an AI agent to be able to actually just do those in Agility. So for instance, create a component model. There's actually a lot of pieces that go into a component model that are in there, and a lot of like steps that you had to take that the UI is kind of walking you through. We want to make that a one-step process. Same thing for creating a page, creating a content item, adding a component to a page. That's actually not that easy to do from an API. It's kind of finicky. We want that to be super basic so that AI doesn't need a lot of prompting to understand the actions that are needed to be there. So my opinion on MCP servers, don't just wrap your API, because you're not doing anybody any favors, and actually spend some engineering and some time testing how does an AI agent or a person using an AI agent need to have your product interact with that agent. We're spending a lot of time in R&D looking at that.
Amazing. We're out of time. Is there anything else that you want to touch on? Because we can make more time if
this has just been a great opportunity to chat, Chris. You always bring out the good ideas. You have great questions. It's always a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, this is super cool. And thanks again to everyone who's been checking in on things during their lunch hour here. We'll redistribute this on all of our channels. Obviously, we really love Agility and want to provide access to anyone who hasn't heard about Agility yet. Joel is reachable. He's connected to this event on LinkedIn. Reach out to him, connect, and really open to answering questions and making the whole art of publishing content enjoyable. Joel, looking forward to another 20 years working together. And thank you for making time during your day to join me here. And that is that. We'll see you for our next edition. And thanks again. Have a really wonderful Thursday.
See you, Chris. Take care, folks.
See you, everyone. Thank you.